you guys can see my camera feed within my presentation. We will get started. Thank you. Welcome to Resume Best Practices. This is a question and answer too, so you'll have some time to ask some questions. I know some were submitted. A lot of this is based off of what was already submitted. And I also saw in the poll, that poll is still watching. We can end the poll now. I'm actually surprised that a lot of you, the poll question was, what was your biggest job search challenge right now? And a lot of you are saying that the rejection and the ghosting is taking a toll. So what I want to say to you guys is follow me on social. I constantly have affirmations as well as a growth mindset exercises and a journal that you can download for free. That's not going to be the bonus for this workshop. You guys stick around, there'll be a bonus for you guys again regarding resume building. But I very much start all my clients with mindset going into this job search because it is tough right now. So let me end that poll. Thank you for everyone who did answer. It's really helpful information for me to make sure that I am on the right track with helping people. But you guys are here for some resume tips. So I am recording this for marketing purposes. So just in case you guys plan on asking a question, it might be used in marketing, it might be used on social media. Please follow me on social. I'll share that. Well, I'll share some links with you guys in the chat. Join the Standout Squad, which is my community. I'll share that too for job seekers, and I have some gifts there as well. But yeah, let's jump right into this. First, let me introduce first, actually, yeah, let's say thank you. Thank you for you guys for showing up. I appreciate it. I know it's evening on a Tuesday. Some of you are in other countries. Some of you it could be even later. So I really appreciate you guys making the time, being vulnerable to show up here, because again, it is a super challenging market. So you guys, well, thank you, Alex. You guys deserve a round of applause because you guys are seeking feedback, and that's half the battle here, is that you're not getting feedback when you're submitting your resume because it is just rejection if something isn't right, or you may not be getting feedback from the right source. So I really want to thank you guys for showing up and being vulnerable. And again, I mentioned this, but there'll be a free workbook for you guys at the end. So I'll make sure that I link to that at the end of the shop. Okay, quickly about me. Let me introduce myself. My name is Adam Michael. I'm a career coach. I'm also a Fortune 500 creative director currently at Salesforce. I do everything presentations and broadcast and really cool stuff. I've worked at Apple. I've had clients like Google and Mondelez and all that fun stuff. But the reason I am a career coach is because when I joined Salesforce, it's almost been nonstop hiring for me. I've been building up a team of amazing creatives, and I just keep seeing the same opportunities. When people would reach out to me on LinkedIn, they would ask me, oh, I'm interested in this art director role. And even though I could tell from their LinkedIn or their portfolio that they weren't right for the role, I still wanted to know why they felt that way. And then I started learning like how people were showing up on their resumes, how they were positioning themselves in interviews. And I said, okay, there's a really big opportunity in this post-pandemic market to really help people. And that's why I became a coach. Again, I had mentioned my free community, the Standout Squad. It's really small right now, but please join. We try to post their daily tips and tricks and stuff like that. It kind of gets you away. It's a Facebook community, but it gets you away from LinkedIn, which I feel is just like an echo chamber in this market, and it's not as helpful as it could be. And again, follow me on all the socials. Okay, enough about me. Let's talk about one of my clients, apparently. I forgot that this slide came up. So when I talk about mindset and value, that is really what I'm trying to help you guys communicate here. And that's what I helped Heather do. We worked together one-on-one to elevate her resume, and she hadn't had a resume in almost 20 years because she was a business owner, and now she wanted to go into academia and start teaching holistic health and stress management. So I helped her build her resume, and she started to better understand the impact she brought as a business owner in her previous roles. And that's really what we're trying to communicate here is value and impact. It's not just skills. It's not just a list of skills. It's not just a list of tasks on your resume. We're trying to make sure you see your value. You want to look at your resume and say, holy smokes, look at how amazing I am. If it's not happening right now, then you're not gonna, a recruiter and a hiring manager are not gonna feel that way. Okay, so we're going to talk about 5 best practices. Again, these are based off of most of the questions that you guys submitted, and then we'll do a live Q&A. And then I'll have some next steps in that bonus workbook for you. So 5 best practices for your resume. We're going to start with, first off, changing the way you think about your resume. So like I had mentioned, it's not just a list of tasks. It's not a brief history of your job, which I think if you look at the dictionary definition, it's something like a concise history of your employment and education, and just it's so outdated. Your resume is a marketing document. So if you guys have ever been in sales or marketing roles, you need to first think about who your audience is, and that's going to be the hiring manager and the recruiter. So you want to always think simplicity first. So we want to make sure, especially for the creatives out there, if you're a creative, you don't want to over design your resume, because that is really just a distraction when your resume isn't a portfolio piece. If you guys are using columns in your resume, that might not pass the ATS system. So find an ATS friendly, very simple resume. That's the first thing. I do offer one on my website if you guys need a simple resume. It's for Word, Microsoft Word, but keep it simple. The other thing you guys want to think is showcasing the ability of you to think strategically. So proof of strategic thinking. This market is all about efficiency. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term operating margin, but I've heard this over and over in the last almost 4 years. So all these companies hired during the pandemic, and they were focused on profit and growth. And now they're focused on something called operating margin, which is how profit compares to their operating expenses, which includes human capital. So they're looking for redundancies. That's why we have all these layoffs, like Starbucks a few weeks ago. We have all these layoffs because basically they're looking at roles, middle management and individual contributor roles, and they're saying, okay, if I have 2 senior designers, this one makes the most money, I need to simplify this role and reduce the redundancy. They're going to get rid of the person who makes the most money. So what this means to you guys is you just want to have their end goal, which is operating margin, in mind, and showcase opportunities where you've been strategic in your roles, which is different than you've done in the past, because most of the time you're focused on your hard skills or some of the soft skills that you might have brought to the table. But now they're asking for you to show opportunities where you've saved time, you've saved money. So think about wins where that aren't going to make you redundant, where you're kind of showcasing, hey, I'm always thinking about that efficiency piece. And then the last thing is collaboration over isolation. What I mean by that is none of us work in a vacuum. And as much as your resume should be about me, you should be mentioning things like the stakeholders that you've worked with. So partnering with managers, collaborating with directors, working with a team of 10, or those types of numbers just showcase that you know how to work with people. And I think a lot of us are focused on those impact numbers in our bullets, and we're not thinking about the context around them. So we'll discuss that a little more. The second thing I want to talk about is how you lead with a strong professional summary. And I want to give you guys some context into that. I think a lot of us are still leading with either an objective or with a summary that doesn't differentiate us enough. And I really want you guys to think about this as your elevator pitch. If you were stuck in an elevator and with a hiring manager or the CEO of your favorite company, how would you talk about yourself? And I think one thing that we could all really do is focus on, again, the value. I mean, this is actually a different values piece. The value of, I don't know if you guys are familiar with core values, but that's something else I talk about, is there a value that you bring to what you do, meaning innovation, driven for results. So for example, I'll give you guys a summary example, but I would say a results-driven creative director. Is there a value you can highlight at the beginning? And then number 4, I'm passionate about, you don't need to necessarily say it exactly like that, but give them something memorable at the end of your professional summary, something that differentiates you. You should align it to the job. So here's an example. So this says innovation-driven senior graphic designer. And then at the end, it says passionate about leveraging AI to help design teams ideate faster and deliver greater value. So it shows your growth mindset. It shows that you're curious, but it shows that you're interested in just more than what might be part of the job description. So the workbook that I provide you guys will have this example and this formula in there. But you really, again, if this is a marketing tool, this is basically your introduction. It is your elevator pitch. This is your first impression. You have your contact info, you have a headline that kind of describes who you are, and then you have this powerful statement that says, this is what makes me unique, and this is what differentiates me. This is what I'm passionate about and makes me different than others who might be looking at this role. Okay, now I know a lot of you are going to say, I've never heard of this before, and that is really important. You want to use social proof. And what I mean by that is you should have a testimonial on your resume. So testimonials act as social proof. They show that others validate your skills and the impact, and they are a very powerful differentiator. And the reason I know you guys have never heard of this is because every time I ask this question, everyone's like, why would I put a testimonial on my resume? So think about the psychology behind this again. Think about this as a marketing document. So I have a 9-week-old, and I would say a few months ago, I had to start doing all my research for strollers and bassinets and bottles and all that fun stuff. And I have a 6-year-old, so I haven't had to do this in 6 years. And the first thing I did was I went and looked at reviews. I looked at TikTok reviews. I looked at Amazon reviews. I looked at YouTube reviews. This is how we shop and we build trust with a brand and a product. You deserve to share the same type of testimonials as product reviews. So you want a testimonial that basically backs up your professional summary. So again, the first thing they learn about you is your professional summary. Then right under that, there should be a testimonial that from a different person that just backs that up. And I think the last class I did, someone said, well, can't you just make that up? I mean, sure, but I mean, couldn't you just make up all your resume? So like, be authentic, be yourself, be honest. If you have testimonials on LinkedIn, see if that fits on your resume, use an excerpt, but think about the impact that reviews make on your buying decisions. It's the same psychology on the resume. These are 3 questions that you can send, and again, this will be part of the workbook, but these are 3 questions you can send to a colleague, a former leader, manager, a teacher, professor, to get feedback. And then you can throw it into ChatGPT and basically say, hey, give me 3 versions of a testimonial for my resume based off these answers. And then you could share that back with the colleague, the leader, the professor, and see which one they like, which one they prefer, if they want to tweak it. It's a little easier than asking for a testimonial because I think it puts more on them. If you could just send them the questions, and these are pretty easy for them to answer. Here's an example of one that I wrote for as an example, but of someone that I worked for. So the other challenge with this is that your resume is starting to get big because you have this professional summary, you have this testimonial. That's okay. Your resume does not have to be 1 page. So I don't want you guys to be afraid of that. If you go over 1 page, that's okay. There is no hard and fast rule that says your resume needs to be 1 page. I wouldn't make it more than 3, and it should kind of balance out with your experience. So if you're an early career professional, you could do 1 to 2 pages. If you're later career, the most I would do is 3, and you just kind of have to find out how to showcase your best self in those 3 pages. Rebecca asked, could that be an excerpt from a letter, the testimonial? I don't see why not. If it's a letter of recommendation, it's something that they wrote. You have the actual quote. You can pull it from that. I would just triple check with the author and let them know, like, hey, this letter of recommendation was so impactful. I'd love to put an excerpt on my resume. I don't see why that's an issue. Okay. So at the beginning, I kept saying that your resume is more than a list of tasks. And I think people have started figuring out that, okay, now I need to show results on my resume. So we're at that point where people are starting to put percentages and quantitative data in their bullets. Now, here's the problem. Everyone's doing that. So you're not differentiating yourself just by putting data into your job bullets. Like, I saved 10% of time, or I helped 100 people. What will differentiate you now is providing a little more context that highlights the soft skills that you guys have been learning. So you're going to use the STAR method. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you guys, or reaction if you guys have heard of the STAR method before. Few people. Normally, you would use this for interviews. This is your interview storytelling framework. But what I want you guys to do is start using it to build the bullets on your resume. You're not going to tell the whole story there. You're not going to have 4 sentences using each piece of STAR. But what it helps you do is highlight your wins, your most impactful things that you did in that role. And that starts to prep you for interviews, because there's going to be a steel thread from your resume to interviews. So if they ask you a specific question, you can answer with that STAR method story. Great. They'll notice the connection. They'll see the self-awareness. But it helps you really understand the actions that you took and really what skills you can highlight. So I want to give you guys an example of what this looks like to take a STAR method story and create a bullet out of it. So here's an actual situation for me that I've had on my resume before. So I worked as a freelancer, and the situation was this agency, McCann Health, was hosting a employee town hall in their New York office, and they had 2 days to make a presentation deck. So I was brought on as the freelance designer, and I need to gather all the content. I didn't know their brand. I need to get everything into PowerPoint. So the actions I took was I worked with the senior project manager and the SVP to gather all the content. I then went to their website to grab all their brand content. I made a template in PowerPoint. Then I partnered with all the internal and external people to get photos and all the icons and stuff that I needed. And then the results was that I delivered this 30-slide deck. The SVPs were super happy. I helped 600, they presented in front of 600 employees, and they ended up keeping me on for 12 months. And this would be a great interview answer. It's like, this is the situation, this was the task I was given, this was the action that I took, and look at this amazing result. Like, they were so happy that my 1 week freelance project went on for a year. Like, that's a huge win. Okay, so I need to actually turn this into a job bullet. So this would be the bullet. I want to take the quantitative data. I want to highlight all that stuff. So anywhere I had a number, I tried to share it. So in less than 48 hours, I designed a 30-slide PowerPoint deck for McCann Health Employee Town Hall. I collaborated with executives, developed a story, designed the deck to their brand standards, and I delivered it for 600 people. They were so impressed they kept me on for 12 weeks. So this is a bullet. It's about 3 sentences. This is a hefty bullet. I'm gonna ask you guys that. I'll go back and I'll show you guys all the steps again. But this is a hefty bullet. So what I want you guys to do is think about how to fit 4 of these in your latest employment, your latest career experience. And then in the older ones, you could go down to 3, even 2 for your earliest stuff, because these are pretty big. And what I would do is, if you guys look at the template from my website, my resume template, you put your job and the city, your title, the city that you worked in, the time that you've worked there, and then below that you have a very, very, very brief 1-sentence description of the role, which basically highlights some of those responsibilities you might have had, those generic tasks, and then it's 4 or 3 bullet wins that you want to share there. So you can still give them a little bit of context about the role if it's something very unique to that industry or that company. But you really want to showcase wins where you worked with people, where you made real impact, where you, again, saved money, saved time. Those types of things are really important too. Nadia had asked if I could just go back to, let me see if I could swipe back with my phone. This was the task. You're setting up the story. So this is like at the beginning of a movie, you always have an establishing shot. That's basically how you want to think about, that's situation. Task is what you've been given. Task is what was asked of you in your role. Kiana asked, how would you approach this as an undergraduate? You'd want to look at internships, or you can even mention where you might have partnered with, I don't know if you have TA experience, or where even if you've had jobs. I'm thinking about my jobs, my customer service retail jobs. Well, before I went to school. There are still opportunities there, whether you improve some sort of process or system, anything you can highlight from those regards. So hopefully it answers your question. Yeah, actually, I use the same method for Heather, that client I mentioned, Heather, at the beginning. We use that same method to build her resume. Same concept. For her, it was more about, so the business that she had was like a consulting business. So she did a lot of work when it came to raising funds and working with the community and working with schools in LA. So we made sure that kind of collaboration, as well as working with external stakeholders to raise funds, was highlighted in her academia CV, because that's the type of stuff she would have to do grant work, raising grants or applying for grants, and she'd have to be able to work with the local community as part of the college in the role she was looking at. Okay, we only have 5 minutes. You guys can keep with me, then I can stay on for a little longer. Last, you guys want to show a balance of both hard and soft skills in your areas of expertise or skill section. I think that's a big miss for some people, because we want to focus so much on the technical skills that we miss the part of working with people. So I would say, like, can you showcase team collaboration, leadership, managing ambiguity? These are called competencies, so or soft skills. So you can always say, if you guys do use ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, I recommend it. It makes life so much easier. You can drop a job description into any of those tools and say, hey, give me the tops soft skills and hard skills needed for this role, and then just share the ones that you feel confident in. And this is one of those things where these are the keywords you could switch out. I'm not a big fan of like having 1,000 different resumes for every job you apply for, but for switching out keywords in your skills section, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's just easier than rewriting bullets and stuff like that. So utilize that. And I would say, I don't know if I have it in this workbook, but just don't go over 12 skills. You may think more is better, but the psychology behind having too many skills is that you're overselling yourself. And it's just really hard to say you're an expert in a lot of things. And if you start mentioning things that aren't on the job description, then there's going to be this weird disconnect. So just try to stay under, use, list 12 skills. Here's just some examples: interpersonal savvy, executive presence, nimble learning. But again, this depends on the job description. You want to highlight the ones that align to the job description. They may not say it right in the job description, so that's why you might need to ask ChatGPT to do some work, or Claude or Gemini to say, hey, this is what I'm interpreting from this post what the soft skills needed are. Here's another example of a client that I worked with. Daniela was really struggling to bring her value again to her resume. Same concept. I mean, a lot of people are struggling with this. So we worked together to, what I would do is I would ask her to tell me those STAR method stories. And then we really started to showcase her personal values and the competencies that she brought. And we transformed her resume, and within 2 weeks she had interviews, and then she ended up landing a job, which was awesome. She works for her local police department as their social media manager, which is a cool gig. I want you guys to be able to get this workbook, so here it is. I'll also put in the chat. So this is everything that we went over today. It provides you examples, gives you room to write stuff down if you print it out. So I'll give you guys a second to scan that QR code, click on the link, feel free to fill out the web page, and then you'll get an email just to confirm that you're a real person, and you'll get a link to download. And then please feel free to stay on and ask some questions. I have the link in the chat if you guys want to go back to it, but anyone having a crushing question that wasn't answered, they'd love to ask. You can also pull up some of the surveys that you guys did. Hopefully this information was helpful. Feel free to put it in the chat. So yeah, you can definitely. So the question is, so adapt the resume for each position you apply. Only if it makes sense. Like if there's a huge disconnect in your skills, and you want to like be like, oh, well, I have those. I have some of the skills needed for this. That's really where I would switch out content. You can definitely have multiple wins that you can rotate them into your resume, but like I wouldn't like go into the resume and rewrite the resume for every application. I think that is just too much work. You're putting in all this time, and it's not going to pay off, honestly. So I would like have a very strong foundational base resume that shares your wins, your professional summary, a strong testimonial that backs that up, and then switch out skills where necessary. Another question I have is, how do you address gaps? Just be honest and say what you did during that gap. Like if it was a health gap, you could just say get medical gap, but then say what you did during that time. What I'm looking for as a hiring manager is that you have a growth mindset, which is why I have a whole growth mindset class workshop and the workbook and stuff. I want to know what you did during that gap. If you could do stuff, did you volunteer? Did you learn a new language? Did you learn a new skill? I would highlight that stuff in the gaps. ATS ready. I mean, JobScan's fine. I would use ChatGPT or some sort of AI to just tell you if your resume is ATS ready. But what I would say is just don't design your resume. I've just never seen a good designed resume, and I'm a designer. I've been in the design field for 20 years. I have never looked at a resume and say, oh my God, this is the greatest resume I've ever seen in my entire life. It's so beautiful. I'm going to hire this person. No, because what I'm looking for is the content within the resume. And what the problem with designing your resume or putting a headshot on it or giving it funky colors is that distracts from the important stuff. Everything we talked about today is important. And when you design your resume, you have to make space for that design, and then you don't have space for the content. I would avoid columns. Yeah, Rebecca asked, you said columns aren't safe for ATS. And the reason I say that is because I I have a Mac, so when you open up preview on the Mac and you go to like select context, but content from columns, sometimes the highlight jumps columns. So my fear is that that's the way the ATS system is reading stuff, is that it's just not seeing the format the way that you've designed it. So I would just avoid it. I would just avoid it. Oh, projects. Yeah, yeah, Mitzi, that's a good question. Sharing projects. I would say maybe in your education section would probably be a good way of sharing context without actual experience. But I would talk about those projects the same way. What were the impacts? What was the value that you had on the project if you worked with other people, if you collaborated with other people? What were the soft skills that you brought to that project? Did you lead the team? Did you improve some sort of process on the project? So you'd still want to think about, how can I form this in a star story? No problem, Alex. Thank you. Lots of questions, guys. Hold on, I'm just reviewing the chat. So Nadia asked, for skills, do you mention them or connect them to a past workplace or add a description? For skills, I don't think that's necessary. I would just list the hard skill and the soft skill. I was looking at a resume from solutions architect the other day. We had a discovery call and he had so many skills. Like it must have been something like 20 skills. And then each skill had a descriptor and each piece of software that he knew. So if it was something like team collaboration, we'd have Slack, Teams, Discord, and it was too much. It was just too much. As a hiring manager, this is why I say think about this as a marketing tool. I read a survey the other day that maybe 160 people on average are applying for roles. As a recruiter or hiring manager, even let's say 40 resumes get to me for review. I still am doing my day job. So I may be able to allot maybe an hour to look at resumes. I cannot look at a resume that is like hard to read, not cohesive, has too much stuff on it. Like that's why I want you guys to think of simplicity, because the easier you make it for me to digest while still showcasing your value, that is important. That is important. Just don't overwhelm me, because I don't have time for that when I'm hiring someone, because I'm still trying to lead a team, do my day job. Like that's the thing that we don't think. And don't get me wrong, the market is broken, but like hiring managers and recruiters don't have time. They don't have time to respond to everybody. They don't have time um to really take in these beautifully done projects. Like I used to create presentations like before I knew that all I need to do was send in a solid resume with that showcase like my marketing capabilities. I would do like beautiful animated presentations, and my resumes would fold out into instructions and be like beautifully designed. Like none of that, no one has time for that. They're not going to be impressed by it. They just don't have time for it. That's the reality. So should we use a QR code on our resume? I don't think so. Like just put the link to your email and your LinkedIn. Like I don't think a QR code is going to do anything special for you. It obviously maybe just take up more space. I don't know. I've never heard of that, honestly. If you're overqualified, should you make the resume more simple? I think that's fair. Like if that's the other thing, if you're showing too many skills, or if you're I don't want to say you could definitely dumb down your resume, but if that is that the value you want to bring, think about what you're trying to accomplish. Obviously, and I don't want to disrespect anybody who is looking for work and needs to pay the bills and take care of their family. I get that. If that's what you need to do, then simplify your resume to land a job so that you can take care of what you need to take care of. But I want you guys to be proud of your resume. So I don't want you guys to make yourself feel smaller to land a role. You should make yourself feel super proud of what you have to showcase and start and apply for roles that that are up to par and what you can do. Yeah, you could definitely ask a professor, Kiana. You could definitely ask a professor for feedback. That is totally acceptable. Yeah, yeah. Um, other real quick things. I have some more questions. Is there a right or wrong format when creating a resume? Like we already answered that. No columns. Can a resume be too long? I already answered that in the presentation. Yeah, don't go over 3 pages. Or if you're early in your career, don't go over 2. How do I handle employment gaps on my resume? We answered that. Just be honest. I answered this one. Should we list everything that we know? No, because you're going to oversell yourself or you're going to dilute your value when you do that. And please, 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 I already mentioned this. Use AI to your advantage. They're free tools. They don't have to write your resume. You should still go in, make it your own voice. You should also triple check what it puts for you because sometimes it just makes stuff up. But yeah, definitely use it, especially in this age. Like abuse it, but then rewrite it in your own words, and I think that will make a huge impact. Yeah, just another client, Utara she was really blown away by the concept of thinking about it as a marketing tool, and I want you guys to take that away because you're doing this for you, but you're also doing that for them. Like I'm so busy when I hire that you want to make it super easy for me to understand who you are, what value you bring as quickly as possible. So you don't want anything to distract me from that. And that's going to help level up your resume. Rebecca, you're asking, should you showcase skills kind of outside of the RN? As long as the skills or the experience that older work experience, if it relates to being an RN in any way, I would show it. And that might come down to throwing an RN job description into ChatGPT and saying, what are the core competencies, soft skills needed for this role, and then showcase that, whether it's hospitality or something else, showcase that in your previous roles if you can. Yeah, hospitality, I think, is still, there are a lot of transferable skills there. So I don't want you guys to be afraid of bringing up skills from the past, but just make sure they're still related. And that's why I like soft skills, because soft skills are people skills and they're really great for transferability. So yeah, think of your resume as a marketing tool, not a job history. Stories win over responsibilities. So work on those STAR method stories, summarize them in your bullets, and just balance those hard skills and those soft human skills. Again, you guys, please download the free workbook. I'm going to share that again in the chat because I know we had a lot of questions. Follow me on social. Let me share all these links again. And join the squad if you can. A lot of cool stuff that happens in the squad. And again, we try to post daily. It's a great channel, so just chat with me. Appreciate you guys staying. This was a great showing. Thank you guys again for making the time. Really, really appreciate it. Hope you guys got something out of this. Hope you guys can see the opportunity to bring more value to your resume. And thank you. And again, if you guys answered that poll that the rejection is getting to you, I hear you. You can join the standout squad or reach out to me and I can share the growth mindset. Follow me on social. You'll see the growth mindset workbook shared as well. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.